Thank you for joining us today for Lisle Township Democratic Organization, LTDO TV. My name is Diane Hewitt, and I'm the Vice Chair of LTDO. Today we're going to be talking about messaging. Mark Van Scherel is a professional messenger of many different fields, and he's going to be giving us some ideas on how to better message.
What I'm going to try to do is illustrate positive framing as I talk tonight and talk about our candidates. And I want to start by telling a story about Mike Frerichs, who's the state treasurer of Illinois and a Democrat. Did you know that Illinois treasurer's funds have a AAA bond rating? Yeah. See, some people know that. And a few years ago, Mike thought, let's start a fund for families with special needs children so they can make tax advantage investments to provide for these children beyond the lifetimes or abilities of their parents. He went to the banks. He thought they'd be happy to hear from him with the AAA rating, and they said, well, you've got too small of a pool in Illinois. It's only 50,000 families that could take advantage of this. That's not a big enough pool for us to do this in an economical and a sustainable way. So Mike didn't give up. He started calling around to other state treasurers, whether they were red or blue, and got 15 states to go together to start what they call these ability funds, which are just like your college savings funds for families that have children with special needs and want to make sure that they can get opportunities and care as the parents are no longer able to provide that. So that's the kind of power that we have up and down our tickets in Illinois this year and out here in DuPage County. And that's the kind of can-do spirit we want at all levels of government. The question is, how did Mike do that? How did he persuade even the reddest of red state treasurers to work with him? This is your participation point of the evening. Raise your hand if in the last 2 years, roughly since the last election, politics has made a relationship with a friend or a family member tense. Right? They're in our families. They're in our neighborhoods. They're in our workplace. Next week, Julie and I will be going to South Dakota to celebrate, not really my birthday, it's a coincidence. My older sister's it's her 50th anniversary of graduating from high school, and so we're having a little sibling reunion. And not all my relatives voted the way we did in the last election. So there's a tricky part and there's an opportunity in all of this. There are many independents and more than a few Republicans in our families and our precincts who can be persuaded to join us this year in forming a more perfect union. But we need to be cool, civil, respectful, good listeners, even when we're horrified, deeply disappointed, sometimes angry, and when possible, find ways to make a persuasive case with our language. I have two illustrations I want to share with you which have helped me a lot to find common ground with people over the years, because I've always had to work with people all across the political spectrum and up and down all of the income ranges in my work. And so one is the whole issue of not letting people box you in. It's easy for us to, I'm not making this up, say we have 35 planks in our Democratic platform. We don't have to agree on every one of them to get moving together in this blue wave. Being church people, I sometimes have said that Julie and I had to agree on every last detail about everything in order to go to communion or go to church. We'd never go. Because as much as we love each other and think a lot alike on things, we don't think the same way on everything. So don't let people do that to you and say, to be a Democrat, to be involved with us, you have to in all these different ways fit in somebody's box. Just don't. And so what I want to ask you to do, whether you're working precincts or writing materials or harassing your relatives or whatever, is look for some common ground. I love coffee, so My little thing for you to remember is common grounds for the common good. I have two illustrations I want to share with you that have helped me. This was the first one. And let me illustrate about the points of alignment or common ground. Many of our neighbors are compassionate and could relate to the story that I told at the beginning of Illinois Treasurer Mike Frerichs, who cared enough about families with special needs children to do something about it. They're out there in our neighborhoods, in our precincts. Or perhaps you might be talking to a veteran who might have been really offended in the last couple of years by loose and disrespectful language about whether or not someone was captured. If you have an unwavering commitment to providing services to our veterans, say it. Look for that point of common ground. Perhaps someone lost a great job with benefits in 2008 or 2009 in that great recession, and they're still struggling, and they maybe will never work at the level that they worked for before. Let them know that you care, that we care. Listen to them. Let them know that you think it's very unfair that that fell on certain segments of our population, and within months, let alone years, after we bailed out the banks, they were paying themselves huge bonuses, and we didn't find a way to work together in our government to really look out for the people, re-educate the people who lost those jobs and could never get another one at that kind of level. So again, you're looking for points of common ground with people, not uniformity about every point in our platform. If someone expresses a thought or opinion that you can't relate to or you don't share, remember that democracy assumes people come from different life experiences, perspectives, and we work together to find ways to move forward together. Democracy assumes tension, back and forth, a good fight. So the second thing, get these Lakoff books out of the way here, is, now I hate to say things like this, but 47 years ago, I was at a Hamline University Law School seminar with the president of the Minnesota Private Colleges and Elie Wiesel, the great Romanian-born American Jewish writer, professor, political activist, Nobel laureate, and Holocaust survivor. They eloquently described how we can get trapped or marginalized or trivialized by improper framing. The common problem many people have, and commentators have, is that it's easy to think of the political spectrum like a violin string. If you stretch it, you tune it up. And what happens to us in our daily life is we see somebody that's just like really off or saying something that you just can't stand. And then I say, that is so terrible what she said. I'm moving away from that. And I keep moving, and I keep moving. And what I don't realize, and what they were trying to say, is that politics is not like a violin string where you have far left on one hand and the far left on the other hand. It's really more like a horseshoe. And our democracy assumes that in the middle you have tension by design, and you have people struggling to find balance between individual freedoms, rights, and the common good. And as people move further and further to the extremes, they become more like one another. Otherwise, there's no way to explain history. Over and over again in history, you have people from the far left or the far right rolling over in bed, and they're the opposite. Like in Russia, they got rid of the Tsar, then they got the Politburo. You still got like a handful of people that have all the power. You have no accountability. You have no way to represent the interests of the average person. And so there's a real danger in that kind of extremism. And we get sucked into talking like that, thinking like that, moving out of the middle where the good stuff happens because people frame things that way. And they back us up, and the next thing we know, we're someplace where we're marginalized, and we're not even in the fight. We want to be in the fight. And so you don't want to let people do that to you. One of the things that we all hear all the time is, I'm tough on crime. And the other guy, mostly they say this about Democrats, they're weak on crime. That's a false dichotomy. That's a false choice. Everybody wants the rule of law, or at least we used to be able to say that in this country, right? And so we don't want to get sucked into that kind of framing. Another one is capitalist versus socialist. Or pull yourself up by your own bootstraps versus looking for government handouts. You know, there's nobody that those things completely, accurately describe. Every business in our county has tremendous benefits from the taxes that we all pay. Somebody owns a big manufacturing business, they got all kinds of trucks that are doing the most damage to our highways and our roads and all that kind of stuff. You name it. Power. Everything you use in your business comes from the community. Good business people know that, and they don't get into those kinds of false dichotomies. So a healthy democracy is all about living in tension, trying to negotiate, navigate, balance competing goods in every generation. If I own a business, I might want to make as much profit as possible, but I also need to pay my fair share of that profit, or taxes on that profit, and provide my fair share of benefits for every worker. Why is it possible, for example, I just heard this when I was in Omaha recently, hiring a new person and talking to the CEO of a major healthcare ministry out there. We talked about a company in Omaha which will remain nameless, and their official policy is that they will not provide healthcare benefits to any employee unless that employee can prove that they can't possibly be covered on their spouse or partner's healthcare benefits. So that business, by design, is taking advantage of every other business person in that state and in Omaha that's trying to do the right thing and give a complete package to their employees and pay their salary and their benefits and stuff like that. Why is that even legal? You know, why is it possible, for example, for a corporate raider, you know about some in our own city here, to take over a company with ridiculous amounts of debt, pay themselves huge sums of money to do these things, and then blame the workers if the company doesn't make enough profit to do everything it was doing before and pay off all this debt. It's a very, very high-risk thing. These corporate raiders do it all the time. They run away with hundreds of millions of dollars as part of their business plan, and then the company goes bankrupt and somebody gets stuck with all that. Then I want to say, not one Republican member of Congress voted for the Affordable Care Act in 2010. You got to say, how is that possible? No one in their families had a pre-existing condition. No one in their family lost health coverage in the middle of an illness through no fault of their own. So, I've worked for 40 years with people in all income ranges, including multi-billionaires, and most of them don't believe in magic or voodoo economics. They pay taxes. They believe in investing in their employees and providing continuing education and providing good benefits. And I regularly hear them say our employees are our most important asset. Supporting good schools and colleges and libraries and parks, paying living wages, providing good benefits, all of that's good business. So let's avoid the trap of people trying to say about Democrats, they're not pro-business, you know? It's important for us in this county to also remember that it's part of the fabric of American life that we don't let the state own everything that has to do with inventiveness, whether it's in the arts or culture or business. We want to protect and reward great ideas and inventiveness. We can have both Chance the Rapper and Thomas Edison. And collective enterprises like Argonne and Fermilab pull people together from disciplines of education, government, and law. They spur and reward creativity and inventiveness. People who invent share in the rewards. They don't just go to the top 1%. So even our patent law reflects a basic sense of American fairness. John Deere was a farmer. The idea is that everyone can share in the fruits of innovation, not just people at the top. We have great candidates up and down the ballot who can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can pass budgets that make more sense every year. We can make progress paying off Illinois' debt without ripping off retirees, cheating our children, or abandoning our needy. People are hungry for lawmakers with our candidates' abilities, who will deal with real challenges facing our country, our state, our county, and work to make things better until everyone can see we're getting somewhere together. So government should work for everyone, not just the ultra-rich. All veterans should be respected whether or not they were captured, wounded, fought in a conflict we won or not. Poor people, sick people, homeless people, unemployed people should be treated with dignity and compassion, not contempt. We want people from all walks of life to be represented in government, to be in the room where it happens, as the musical Hamilton puts it. We want honest debate. We want truth or consequences, and we want RESPECT for women, for workers, for teachers, for immigrants, for refugees. Democracy is only possible when we have respect for each individual, when we have access to facts, when we are free to make decisions acting out of our convictions, when we don't ask the other person to ignore their conscience. That's the answer to how not one Republican could vote against this tax thing, and how not one Republican could vote for the Affordable Care Act. They're being told to ignore their conscience. That is deadly for democracy. I would invite every canvasser to encourage people to vote and say, vote your conscience. We'll be happy with the results.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for joining us today for LTDO TV. My name is Diane Hewitt, and join us again for our next episode.